change. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hurley. If you just give a little snippet of who you are. I know you probably got about a 30-page resume, so I'm not going to try to handle all those titles and whatnot. You can do it quickly.
Yeah, sounds good. So I'm Brian Hurley. I am an addiction psychiatrist, and I work as the medical director of the Division of Substance Abuse Prevention and Control, LA County Department of Public Health. This is a talk about how we talk with people about change. I'm planning to stop at roughly 125. I don't have any financial conflicts. I am the president-elect of the American Society of Addiction Medicine, and ASAM runs a motivational interviewing course. They're actually running a motivational interviewing course today. One of the reasons I have not been here more of the day is that I'm running that course. But I'm here to talk about conversations about change. And so the topics and ASAM, I'm likely to be biased towards ASAM. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. I'm not going to ask you to pay anything necessarily, but so it's not a financial conflict, but it's something I should disclose. So here's my ASAM disclosure. All right. So on completion, we'll talk about applying the spirit of motivational interviewing when working with people ambivalent, that is, feeling two ways about change. We're here as part of a smoking treatment symposium, but actually this could be anything. This could be weight loss, medication adherence, going to see the doctor. This could be finally signing up for that, gym. It could be anything, right? Any particular change behavior. There's 4 meta processes in motivational interviewing. And the strategy is to identify and selectively reinforce change talk that we've evoked from somebody in conversation. And then in an hour where, I can introduce you to some of the concepts, but really I would want to point you towards other training opportunities. I regret this is interactive, so I'm going to ask you to respond to me. What do you already know about motivational interviewing? Yeah, the 5 A's. The 5 A's can be consistent with motivational interviewing. It's a little heavy on assessment. Evoking change talk, that's right, Emily. Open-ended questions are part of it. It works if the facilitator is properly trained. Yeah, what is the right term? Fidelity to motivational interviewing is important. It's a conversation about change. It's patient-centered, client-centered. It was developed by Rolnick and Miller, that's right. And it's a way to dance and not wrestle with the client. Excellent, excellent, excellent. What do you want to know about motivational interviewing?
Feel free to put it in the chat. What else do you want to know about motivational interviewing? Those of you who may already be familiar or not.
Is there anything you want to know? Oh, so Victoria says, anything. How to convince fellow providers to learn, practice, and use it. How to evoke change talk from people around MI. Yeah. How do we evaluate its effectiveness? I have some specific ideas about that. All right. So if I don't touch Anya, Victoria, and Lauren, if I don't touch on these things by the end, please hold me to account. Selena says, how do I help a client who provides very little information? Yeah, when somebody is actually providing very little of anything, change, sustain, or otherwise talk, how do you support engagement? What's truly motivating? All right. What else, if anything, should we cover today? I asked, what do you already know about motivational interviewing? To which you said, we can follow the 5 A's. It's about evoking change talk. It's an open-ended process. Fidelity is important. It's a conversation and client-centered approach. Yep. You're interested in knowing how to evoke readiness to change from other clinicians or other practitioners. Anything? How do we evaluate its effectiveness? How do we help somebody who provides very little participation? What's truly motivating? And you want to do a role play, okay? Starting conversations with people who are starting at a place of unreadiness. All right. So the next part of this talk is interactive. Please, for those of you who are able, please stand up. I'm at a standing desk. I'm already standing. So for those of you who aren't standing, please stand up. Give you a moment to stand. All right, assuming you're standing. Cross your arms. Just cross them. And notice which arm do you have on the top? Which arm do you have on the bottom? This one. So just notice which one you have on the top and which one you have on the bottom. So you're standing and you have your arms crossed. Now I'm going to ask you to do something difficult. What I'd like you to do is uncross your arms and cross them the other way. Take the arm that was on the top and now put it on the bottom. Take the number that was on the bottom, put it on the top, and cross them the other way. Sit with that for a moment. Now, as you cross your arms, now cross them the way you don't usually cross them. All right, sit with that for a moment. Question: on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not at all, 10 being maximal, how motivated are you to cross your arms this other way? I don't mean the first way. I mean, when you uncrossed and recrossed the other way, how motivated are you on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not at all, 10 being maximal, to cross your arms the other way from this point forward? All right, so we have 0, 0, 0, 3, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So the motor response is going 0. Oh, we got a 2, we got a 3, but I'm going to say the modal response, or the most common response we got was 0. We're going to say that the motivation was low. So let me persuade you to open your mind. Let me persuade you that if you cross your arms the other way, it increases your flexibility. In fact, imparts important health benefits. In fact, I'll offer you $100 if you agree to cross your arms the other way from this point forward. On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not at all, 10 being maximal, how motivated are you to cross your arms the other way from this point forward now that you've heard my persuasive speech? All right, so some of you already grows on you. Thank you, Di. So 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 8, 10, 10, 8, 5, 3, 4, 10. So I think we're now at modal 10. So we went from not motivated to now very motivated. Fabulous. It just so happens that I have a doctorate degree in hand crossing. I am an expert. So I will not only persuade you to cross your arms the other way, I will tell you how to do it. What we're going to do is we're going to set up on the Jew campus a crossing the arm station where we're going to install reminder tacks on your elbow so that when you cross your arms the usual way, your elbow will give you a reminder that you actually should be crossing them the other way, right? It's a reminder tack to make sure that, you know, if you were to cross your arms the first way, now that I've persuaded you to cross your arms the other way, I have the plan, reminder tacks involving tacks and super glue. We'll start the installations next week. How motivated are you, scale 0 to 10, to show up to get your reminder tacks installed? Thank you, Maritza. Thank you, Emily. Okay, we're at a bunch of zeros again, right? I mean, there were interim numbers, we were a bunch of zeros. So I'm confused because this is really important. I talked about benefits. There's really no thinking involved. I mean, that's the thing with the reminder facts. You don't have to think about them. They're just there. You just do it. It's easy. I've already told you how to do it. I've offered you cash, and if you don't do it, you'll be stiff. Question: what did it feel like when I was talking to you about crossing your arms? What was that like? Yeah, Lauren says, I felt pressured. What else was it like? You felt confused. I knew you were curious. You were entertained. Thank you, Catherine. I tried. You felt uncertain. Yeah, confused. You were wondering why. Any other reflections? Okay. All right. So we're now going to do a different exercise. I need a volunteer for this one. We're going to do a real play use of motivational interviewing. I will demonstrate. But to do this, I need somebody that, thank you, Sophia, for volunteering. I'll explain it, and then I'll just confirm that you're still okay with it, which is choose something that is true in your life that you want to change, that you need to change, that you should or ought to change. You've been thinking about changing, but you haven't changed yet, and you're comfortable sharing as part of this exercise. You're comfortable like unmuting yourself, you have a microphone, you have a camera, and you're willing to talk about with me as part of this conversation. So if all those things are true, Sophia, are you our volunteer?
Of course. You need my camera on, right?
Yeah, turn your camera on. And then Norma, can we highlight Zofia and myself?
Oh, man. Okay, hold on. Where's my
Yes.
camera showing up?
Your camera's perfect. We can see you just fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I don't see myself. That's okay, right?
No, you
Yeah, you
will
don't
in
need to
a
see
minute.
yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Oh, there it is. There I am.
All right.
Oh, you already did it.
Spot,
Okay.
we are spotlit.
Okay.
So everybody, what I want you to do is listen to what I say. I mean, you can listen to Zofia, but for the purpose of this exercise, listen to me. What are the questions I ask? What are the reflections I give? And just kind of keep track of what I'm doing in the conversation as an illustration of motivational interviewing. So, and I'm going to ask you at the end, how many questions did I ask? How many reflections did I give? And did you notice me doing any other behaviors? Okay. So Zofia, I understand, and you're muted just so you know. There you go. I understand that there is something in your life that you want to change, you need to change, you've been thinking about changing, but you haven't changed yet, and that you're comfortable sharing with me.
You know what, Brian, I feel that I probably would need to change I sometimes have negative thinking, you know, more about like, if it doesn't go as planned, you know, my expectations sometimes get in the way. So I think more of like my negative thinking on results that I've planned.
When you come up with a plan, you're preparing for the worst.
Yes, that's what I've been conditioned to do. Yes, definitely. What is it? Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
And you'd like to not always be expecting the worst.
I want to stay in the moment. I'm working on staying in the moment.
And these sort of distorted expectations of the future really get you out of the moment. You're not able to maintain a mindfulness of the present moment because of these thoughts.
Yes, that is true.
And it's something you're working to change.
I do. I want to change that.
Tell me more.
I guess when I was growing up, I feel that it was always like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with my life? What's the purpose of my life? You know, if I find that, I'll be happy. You know, I feel now that I found the purpose of my life, which I'm in human services, you know, now I feel like it's not enough. So it's like always not enough, you know.
You made it to the level where you wanted, now you got what you wanted, and you want more. You want something else. You want something different.
Yes, I wanted to get certified as a substance abuse counselor. That happened. I wanted to finish my bachelor's degree. Okay, that happened. I said, I want to get into master's. Now I'm at the master's program. Now I'm already thinking, what if I get a PhD? And
with
it's
all
not
the
even
success.
Yes.
With all of the success, yet you expect the worst.
Yes. And it's not even about the money anymore. It's more about this. I don't know. I need to prove this to who? I don't know.
One of the things
Myself.
that you're thinking about is who are you proving this to? What is this really about?
I guess to myself, because everybody accepts me. My family's proud. You know. Probably just to get out of the stigma, maybe that, you know, a person of color, you know, we can't get that far, you know. It's like we stay at the high school diploma, if sometimes not even that, you know. I don't know, maybe it's that.
You're feeling like there's expectations of you did not do well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What are you thinking about doing about these negative thoughts that you have?
Well, I know that I've learned to challenge those negative thoughts and really just look at the facts. But the thing is, it's easier said than done. You know, I can teach this in group all day long and I've gotten better, don't get me wrong, you know, it's progress, not perfection. But I can teach this all day long, but then when it comes to me doing it, it's like, wait a minute, how am I challenging these thoughts? Rachel, look down at your feet. Where are you right now? It's September 23rd. It's 12:41. You know,
It feels really effortful to be able to actually always be challenging these negative thoughts.
yeah, it is. You know, I think I was worse off. You know what actually helped me, and this is may seem like it's not relative to this, but my best friend and I took a trip last year, and we decided to take a road trip up to the tip of Nevada, a small town, population, I don't know, maybe 100. And we decided to go and find UFOs near Area 51. Now, you may say, well, what's that have to do with it? Well, the thing is, there was no cell service for like the whole trip. So we really just had to like learn how to stay in the moment and really just cherish each other's company and not be on the devices, you know. And I learned how to dine. And what that means is I learned how to sit down and savor my food, which is, I think, a sense of mindful, a tool of mindfulness, right? You savor your food, you know, and that definitely has helped me a lot to really just stay in the moment and challenge those thoughts of like the future.
I have some ideas. Would it be okay if I shared my ideas with you?
Of course, go ahead.
There's this dichotomy in your life between your professional pursuits, and yet the thing that helps you in the moment is when you're away from your phone and from your distraction. And the work, you know, in the moment while you're working, to then always be challenging your automatic negative thoughts is in fact making more work for you in the moment. And so maybe one of the strategies is to build time out of work, to be able to build rest, so that when you are at work, you have a stronger battery, metaphorically speaking, to be able to be present. But what do you think? What do you think about that?
No, I think it's definitely true. It's kind of, I guess, would that be ironic that I have to get away in order to learn to be present in my daily life?
Seems actually quite logical.
Logical, right?
Yeah.
Since that trip, I'm pro taking vacations, because it's not for selfish reasons. It's for self-care and mindfulness and learning how to stay in the moment.
And makes you even more effective at work.
Yes, to prevent.
Is it okay if we check in next week to see how you're making use of your off work time to optimize your on work time?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Zofia, for participating in a real world illustration of motivational interviewing. Thank you, everybody.
This helped better than my therapies.
All right. So we're gonna unspotlight here for a second. All right, cool. So let's debrief. Zofia, what was that like when I was listening to you?
What was it like to? It was great. You know,
so,
a lot of.
Go ahead.
You know, growing up, I was the kid with. I didn't have a very loud voice. You know, it was the time of kids are to be seen, not heard. So I feel like, and then sometimes now I feel that too in a group of friends, you know, until you find one good friend that's able to direct the conversation. So wait, what were you saying, Rachel?
What did I think I said, what does it feel like?
Oh, it feels I'm significant. I'm valid. I matter.
You felt validated and heard.
I felt validated and heard. But the thing is, I don't want to feel like I need to be validated.
No,
Like
I
I don't,
hear you.
you know what I'm saying?
Well, so here's my question actually now to the group, which is, we see patients and clients, and when we have an agenda, you need to stop smoking cigarettes. You need to stop smoking weed. You need to go to treatment. This is what you need to do. And like there's patches, there's gums, there's lozenges, there's the quit line, all of which is important and valuable. Let me be clear. I prescribe meds. I recommend quit lines or helpline. These resources are valuable, but when it's on my agenda and not on the agenda person I'm talking to, well, what were the words you used? You felt pressured, confused, uncertain. You felt hesitant. You felt like curious about my intentions. If I instead listen and evoke from somebody their ideas, their values, their intentions, what they're thinking, well, what did you say, Zofia? You felt valued, you felt validated, you felt heard, you felt listened to. And ironically, for the first exercise, I did most of the talking. In fact, I did all of the talking. You were muted. I did all of the speaking, and you chatted in some stuff. I got information, but it wasn't it wasn't like an extensive conversation. Whereas the second one, Zofia, you did most of the talking. Most of the space was filled with you. So which patient would you rather be working with? A patient that felt uncertain, worried, skeptical, or a patient that felt heard? Obviously, you want to be with the patient that felt heard. Ironically, motivational interviewing, where we spend the time to evoke from our patients their ideas and their values, their intentions, is like we control. Not control, we influence. That's probably the better way of putting it. We influence that interaction. All right, so let's get into the technique of motivational interviewing. Thank you, Zofia, again, for your participation. So what is motivational interviewing? Motivational interviewing is defined as a collaborative conversation style that arranges conversations so that people talk themselves into change based on their values and interests. What that means is just by having a motivational interview does not mean someone's going to change. Right? It means that to whatever extent people value or are interested in change, that's the basis of the change, which means people are not ready to have a conversation around tobacco product use, then doesn't mean they're going to change. But motivational interviewing structures the conversation to maximize the capitalization, right? The engagement on whatever ambivalence exists. Here's a, hold on, I may not have done this right. Give me one more second. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I think I did this right. Here's a quick video illustrating this point.
Denial and resistance in people, if you think about that I went through, is not a property of the pathology of the individual, okay, but says something about the relationship. My 15-year-old lies to me consistently, but not to his best friend. Do you see the point? Yeah, okay, so, but you know what I'm saying. You've got to be very careful. And what Miller and I shared then and now is that if you shift your style, this is the basic observation, the motivation to change improves in front of your eyes. And that shift in style is not just a technical matter, it's your attitude towards this person. And so associated with that style shift is a whole lot of things that you saw in Conversation B, which we'll have a look at in a moment, again. But I think which can be captured by this. Try not to judge, try not to blame, try not to label the person. Try and be respectful, reflective, as your colleagues have said. And the motivation to change can come from within them. They have the energy and the motivation and the good sense to change inside them, and much of the capacity and skills to make change happen if you give them the space to do that. And that's a very different approach to what I saw in that addiction treatment unit, and Miller had noticed in addiction treatment settings in the United States, where his stories were the equivalent of mine. I mean, there were some stories that he told me and still tells me that truly make me shocked.
Change is natural. It occurs all the time, and treatment and interactions can facilitate the the change process. It occurs all the time, but it means shifting rather than suggesting, well, why would you still want to smoke? Don't you know it's bad for you? Don't you understand the risks? It's, you're still smoking. Tell me more about that. What does smoking do for you? What are you worried about? All right. You're evoking and understanding the ambivalence. And it means, rather than saying, well, this person's pre-contemplative, which is another way of saying unmotivated. So, well, people are motivated for something. Rather than saying, why isn't this person motivated? It's, well, what is this person motivated? What does this person want? We've talked about change talk, but just for anyone that doesn't know, the definition of change talk is self-motivating statements. It's the things that people say in the direction of positive change. I could cut down my smoking. I could smoke less. I could start taking that medication for smoking. I could call that helpline or the quit line. The more we get it, the more we talk ourselves into things or out of things, depending on what the change is. This is what the empirical, if you're looking to study the impact of motivational interviewing, it's on this, change talk. You're listening for and evoking the change talk, and that's associated with actual patient behavior is change talk, and it's what the patients say. It's not what we as interviewers say. It's what the patient says that seems to track empirically with behavior. So same talk is just, I can't, I won't, I'm not ready, I'm not interested, no. It's statements against, like, I love smoking, I want to smoke more, I don't intend to ever stop. It's all sustained talk. And the more of that we get, the more someone's likely to continue the status quo. Motivational interviewing, and I did a lot of listening, but just to be clear, like, it's not, I wasn't like directing, right? I wasn't persuading, but I wasn't entirely following either. Like, I had a strategy. I was looking to evoke. I had an idea of where I wanted to head during this interview. And motivational interviewing is not entirely a following style, but it's not a directive style. It's a guiding style, right? You're pointing a direction, but the person you're talking to, the interviewee is the one who's walking. Part of motivational interviewing is maintaining a spirit. And the spirit of motivational interviewing is the spirit of compassion, acceptance, partnership, and evocation. This is, just to be clear, if we don't have compassion for the people we're talking to, you can use motivational interviewing to be manipulative. And if you've ever been to a used car lot and talked to a salesperson, they're very good. They accept that you could walk away from a sale at any time. They can accept, they're very good at, hey, good to see you, friend, and getting people to talk about yourself. It's really compassion that separates motivational interviewing from manipulation or sales. The other, I guess, operational definition is motivational interviewing is like dancing. The interviewee says something, you say something, and you say something kind of in a different direction. It moves the conversation. It's like when you're leading in a dance. This is different than wrestling. You need to quit smoking, but I'm not ready to quit smoking, but it's bad for you. I don't care about that. It costs too much. I can afford it, right? Like, if you're ever in this, you're saying something, a patient's saying something back, and you're pushing and they're pushing back harder, that's a wrestling match. If you find yourself doing that, you're not doing motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing is you get on the patient's page or the client's page, your interviewee's page, about what they're thinking, their ideas, their ambivalence, their values, and using reflective listening to guide. Here's a video. Here's a video about empathy that kind of captures a bit about the spirit of motivational interviewing.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, climb down. I know what it's like down here. and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with "at least." Yeah. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
Before I move on, any reflections on the video? And sorry if it's out of focus. I get the classic, like, your system is slow or whatever. So sorry about that. We'll try to close some windows. Any reflections on the video?
I just like the way that she explains that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a powerful explanation, and they are different, but the empathetic response, being with somebody as opposed to being over them, or, oh wow, that sounds awful, right? Like sort of in a praise position, is just, it's really important. You know what I mean? And I think she illustrates that in a way that is so beautiful and so helpful. So anyway, one question: what do you do about settings where somebody's not talking, right? So the first step in any motivational interview is engagement. Are we talking to each other? It's critical. You can't do other motivational interviewing without engaging somebody. And this is where, like with adolescents or with other folks, Mark and Norma, you can highlight Brene Brown empathy is good. I mean, I can find the link, but and actually in the slide deck, I think I included the URL. So that's where you can find it, or you can do it in answers. But anyway, you have to maintain a connection with someone. Shall we walk together? Are we walking together? And only then do you come up with a shared area of focus. So when I'm working with folks, adolescents, people with cognitive impairments, people that don't have a lot of, they're not a lot of verbal production, I spend a lot of time asking permission. Any thoughts about how I can help? Nope. Yeah. No ideas about how you got here, huh? I have some ideas. Is it okay if I share? Sure. And then I might say some things about what I think is true and see if it inspires any reaction. But I'm spending basically all my time being like, are we actually having a conversation together? And so just probing from different sides, rather than jumping ahead to like, okay, we're here to talk about your smoking, and then let me evoke a bunch of change shock and get right to the plan, right? That's the kind of the stepwise process. If someone said, if I'm not doing the dance, I don't get to focusing, right? I don't even get to pick the topic we're going to talk about because I'm busy orienting myself. And this, I used to work in the jail. This happened all the time, right? I would be assigned to go see somebody that needed to see psych, and they would, I'd go up and have their blanket over them. I would knock. They're breathing. I know they're alive, but there's no response, and they're just furious about the fact that they're incarcerated. They don't want to talk to anybody. So, I remind them they don't have to, right? I emphasize autonomy. It's up to you whether you want to talk to me or not. I'm here for you when you're ready. Here's how to make the request, right? Like, just make it clear I'm here. I'm not judging. I'm not yelling. I'm not arguing. And then try again when I can. But once you have engagement, ideally, when you have somebody actually talking to you, then you get to focusing. Can we agree on a shared topic? Is smoking something that you're willing to talk about? Then evoking, what do you like about smoking? What don't you like about smoking? And then potentially get to planning. Now it's stepwise, right? You have to do engaging to focus, focus to evoke, evoking, to planning. And as clinicians, or I'm a clinician, it's so easy to go, oh, you smoke, here's some nicotine patches, and call the 1-800 Kiki California, right? The Kiki California number. I was calling it No Buzz, but no, it's Kiki California now. So get right to the plan before you're well ahead of somebody's ideas and their intentions and their readiness. But we're always evoking. Evoking is actually part of engagement as well. And we can always test the water. You think you're ready to put together a plan on this? And it's the confluence of the engaging, focusing, evoking, and planning that defines motivational. Anyway, let's see. So I'm going to skip this next video. And what I don't mean to imply is that you have to spend all your time reflecting. Like, you can give information. And I actually illustrated this by asking, oh, thank you, Elizabeth, how to give information advice. You ask permission. I have some ideas about this. Is it okay if I share my ideas? Or you can say, what do you already know? There's a lot of people with tobacco use disorder, and you say, what do you already know? Well, I know that there's 5 forms of nicotine replacement therapy and 2 pills I could take, one called varenicline and the other called bupropion. Like, you'll be surprised, and it can save you some time of needing to go through that if you already know what they know. Then you give a limited amount of clear, of information in clear language that's focused on what you see as like the core issue, and then say, so what do you think? What do you think what I said? What do you think you'll do? Or, just so I was clear, can you teach me back what I just told you? And now you're getting the patient to verbalize the things that that you said, and they're much more likely. People are much more persuaded by the things that they hear themselves say. Okay, so the core skills, motivational interviewing. You heard me do some of this. Open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, summaries, and then informing and advising with advice or with permission. Not going to go into open-ended questions more than to say they are questions that can't be answered with a yes, no, or one-word answer. Affirmations are a very particular type of reflection, and it's important. Affirmations generally start with you and generally speak to something intrinsic. So rather than saying, like, I like the way you handled that customer, you could say, you take great pride in your work, right? Affirmations go a little deeper. Rather than say, wow, that was a whole maelstrom. You made it. You might say, you're somebody that's steady in the face of chaos, right? Affirmations, they speak a little more fundamental to somebody's capacities. Simple reflections, where you just repeat back to somebody what they say. Somebody says to you, I'm never going to give up smoking. You say you're never going to give up smoking. It's, you just literally repeat that. But the key in motivational interviewing, these complex reflections, where you're making a guess about what might be true. Somebody says, well, I can't give up smoking. You might say, you're not ready to give up, but you're ready to do something. You're now using a reflection, right? It's not a question. You're not saying, what are you ready to do? It's, you're ready to do some things, which is a reflective statement in the direction of some action. And that reflective statement in the direction of some action can get the person to be talking about what they're ready to do without you asking a question, because questions are about your agenda. Reflections are about the patient's agenda. You can also reflect the feeling. You can use a metaphor. You can do something called continuing the paragraph, where you make a guess about what might be true for somebody. You can use an amplified reflection. One example of that would be to say, well, you're never going to stop smoking. Not because you want that to be true, but because you want the patient to say, no, I'm going to stop, right? To interrupt and defend. And then double-sided reflections. On one hand, you like the relaxation of smoking, but on the other hand, you don't like the health risk, you don't like the staining of your teeth, and you don't like the way it makes you smell, right? So reflecting the sustained talk and then the change talk. The way to think about it is if a patient makes a statement or a client makes a statement, what they say is on the surface, and you can just reflect that, but there's all of this stuff underneath: thoughts, emotions, beliefs, values, and those are all things that you can reflect using a complex reflection. So for example, somebody says, smoking is making me feel is making me feel worse now, right? It used to make me feel better, but it's not making me feel better the way it used to. I feel worse now. So you might say, well, smoking makes you feel worse now. Or you'd say, so you find that smoking is no longer helping you to feel better the way it used to. Or in the past, smoking helped you feel better, now it makes matters worse. Right? In the past, smoking helped you feel better, now it makes matters worse. That's a double-sided reflection. And then continuing the paragraph, and you want to find some way to feel better instead of smoking. Right? Double-sided reflection into continuing the paragraph. That's a way of moving the conversation forward without questions, but rather using reflective listening. Summaries are where we listen for change talk and then just kind of put it all together in a bow and present it back to somebody. This is a great way to pivot in a conversation. So if someone's like, yeah, you know, smoking doesn't help me feel better the way it used to. My grandchildren kind of wrinkle their nose when they come up to me because I smell. You know, it's hard for me to walk up the stairs now without huffing and puffing, and you know, cigarettes are getting so expensive. You might say, you know, smoking used to help you feel better, but now, you know, it's your grandchildren are recoiling. You're worried about your health and you're worried about your finances. So what do you think you're going to do? Right? It's a way of pivoting from that like evocative process into the planning process, where you selectively summarize change talk. This is a great video. It's super fun, but we're not going to watch it, unfortunately. Change talk. Change talk, it goes by the acronym DARN CATS. Desire, ability, reasons, need. That's the DARN. CATS is commitment, activation, taking steps. So desire, I wish I would stop smoking. You know, I could cut down a little bit. You know, if I stop smoking, my kids, you know, would come visit more often. Or if I stop smoking, I have more money to be able to do X, Y, or Z. Or I gotta stop. And I'll tell you, I have yet to see a patient that loves everything about smoking. Not everyone's ready to quit, but a lot of patients are like, yeah, I really should cut down, right? That's in the DARN, the desirability, you know, got reasons to. And the commitment, I've decided to stop. I'm preparing to. I went out and got the prescription for nicotine replacement therapy, the patches or gums, or, you know, I called the Kick It California site, like, you know, taking steps. Many of us are familiar with protaskically commente, you know, pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action. And the MI Hill is sort of listening for preparatory change talk, this desire, ability, reasons, need, and then trying to evolve the conversation using reflective listening into commitment, activation, and taking steps. And how do we get change talk? Well, we ask questions that evoke it. We can use the readiness ruler. I use this actually for our persuasion exercise on a scale of 0 to 10. How important would you say it is for you to make this change? But that's only one half of the readiness ruler. The other half of the readiness ruler is on a scale of 0 to 10, how confident are you that you could make this change? Decisional balance, pros and cons of change, pros and cons are staying the same, like a 2x2 table. You can ask for elaboration. Tell me more about that. Was something I illustrated during our real play. Query extremes. That doesn't sound like you're ever going to quit smoking. You love everything about smoking. Those are amplified reflections designed to evoke from somebody, oh no, I will plan, you know, I don't plan to smoke forever. Or, well, I don't love everything about smoking, right? It's a way of evoking change talk. Looking back when you weren't smoking, how did you do that? Or looking back when you quit for a while, how did you do that? Looking forward, if you were to stop smoking, what would that look like? So those are ways of trying to evoke change talk and exploring goals and values. So I mentioned this earlier, the importance ruler, again, 0 to 10, how important it is if you to change, you know, smoking would be a perfectly reasonable change target. And then the confidence ruler, how confident are you can make this change? And when you get it, you elaborate it, you affirm it, you reflect it, you summarize it, you spend a lot of time engaging. And when you get sustained talk, right? Sustained talk is the opposite of change talk, right? It's directed against the direction of positive change, right? I want to smoke more. I'm not going to quit. I'm not ready. Those are all sustained talk. You generally ignore it. You don't argue with it. You don't amplify it. You don't reflect it. You're like, okay. All right. So what happens if somebody doesn't give you reasons to change, right? They give you sustained talk. You don't amplify it. And then, you know, the general default strategy would be to just do a simple reflection, right? Somebody gives you sustained talk. You don't understand me, right? There's discord in the relationship. You say, you know, you're concerned I don't understand you. It registers to them that they heard what you had to say. You could do an amplified reflection. You don't want to talk to me anymore. You're never going to talk to me again, or something like that. Double-sided reflection. On one hand, you really like this. On the other hand, you don't. You can come alongside. I get it. I get that you like smoking. I'm not agreeing with you're smoking, but I get that you like it. Or reframing, smoking is really helpful to you. And if you could find something else that would help, you consider smoking less, right? It's sort of reframing. Agreeing with the twist, running Head Start, which is, okay, tell me everything you like about smoking, A to Z, like give it all to me, with the idea of then you understand the lay of the land and you understand where somebody might have some ambivalences that you could explore. And I always emphasize autonomy, and I don't control whether you smoke or not. You clearly are able to go do that. Here is a summary slide that goes over some of the core features of motivational interviewing. So PACE, partnership, acceptance, compassion, evocation. Sorry, I have my camera on wrong. Engaging, focusing, evoking, planning, and then ORS, using your ears and using the readiness ruler. So the importance ruler, competence ruler, and then negotiating a plan. MI is demonstrated to be sort of effective across cultures. And there's increased effect sizes in studies with priority minority populations. The evidence really is that fidelity makes a big difference. So I think the comment earlier on the training is really important. Yes, fidelity makes a big difference. I know we skipped past one of the videos. I actually am thinking that we might get back to it. And this is a video about engagement. So we'll watch the video and then debrief.
It's just, there's all this pressure, and sometimes it feels like it's right up on me and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
Yeah, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See, you're
out.
not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... Sometimes it's like there's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. Ow. If you would just...
Don't...
Try to see things my way.
What does this have to do with motivational interviewing? That's right. The writing reflex, right? We oftentimes pull to fix things, right? And we forget that the most important step in motivational interviewing is engaging, right? If we're not engaged and we're too busy getting to planning, we're too busy fixing things, we're gonna miss key opportunities to actually, like someone's gonna say, you're not listening, you don't understand. Even if you do, unless the person you're talking to really hears you. Yeah, validation. And you said roll with resistance. The new term from Miller and Rolnick is to dance with discord. Don't forget to dance. Roll with resistance is alliterative, dance with discord is alliterative. But yeah, getting to the real issue. She just needed to be heard, right? And once she has that, that can become the platform for, is it okay if we talk about the nail? Are there things that are on your agenda we could talk about, like sweaters or otherwise? And if so, can we evoke about what we might do, right? That doing that work before we get to planning substantially increases the chances that you're going to get to a plan that the person you're working with is going to adhere to. All right. So here's a review. Don't skip engagement, right? It's so tempting. I see an issue. It's so clear to me what needs to be done. This person just needs to stop drinking. They just need to stop smoking. If they just called KK California, if they just took some meds for smoking treatment, right? If they just, so we see it so clearly, but if the patient's not there with us, doesn't matter how clear our vision is. if they're not on board. I do want to acknowledge Bill Miller and Steve Rolnick, who developed motivational interviewing. My patients have been my best teachers on this. And CSAM is going to be in San Diego, August 23rd. So if you want to come to the California Society of Addiction Medicine Conference, highly recommend it. ASAM is going to be in DC, Southern Maryland, actually, April of 2023. And then the Addiction Psychiatry Conference is going to be in Florida in December 2022. We have some time. What questions do you have? Oh, thank you, Victoria. And thank you, Emily. Thank you, Anya. What questions do you have as open-ended? Do you have any questions as close-ended? And it actually depends on whether I want questions or not. If I don't want questions, I'll say, do you have any questions? Because it's a closing move as opposed to an opening move. Yeah, so motivational interviewing in groups, because in a one-on-one interaction, right, in a dyad, the interviewer in some ways frames the interview, and in groups, there's multiple drivers of it. There's a whole book on this, motivational interviewing in groups, that that I would recommend. What it involves is the group leader modeling motivational interviewing. And it oftentimes means them assertively inserting reflections during a conversation that an ordinary process group leader would just sort of like let go. But in motivation interviewing, you want to, the idea is you're inserting reflections during statements. So the interviewer is spending their time sort of validating and hearing what the group is saying, and that can shift the group towards a less like didactic approach and more towards an evocative approach. How do I help? Oh yes, Anya. How to help other providers use motivational interviewing? Yeah, it would be to motivate. So it would be to motivational interviewing them for sure. What if, imagine a future where health systems, clinicians, where we got paid by the amount of change talk we evoked from our patients or our clients. And so for every time we evoked change talk, we got a payment. And for every time we evoked sustained talk, we didn't. How would that change our clinical practice? First of all of our interviews would be recorded and they would all be coded in order to be the basis for payment. And everyone would learn motivation interviewing. And those that weren't capable of doing it would be moved out of clinical positions. Like I think of like that would be the most extreme scenario under which I would expect motivation to be widely adopted, is when there's financial penalties, right? Thank you, Mark and Norm. But let's assume we're not going to get to like that level of payment reform, because payment reform is really going to like pay for financial outcomes, lack of ER visits, lack of hospital admissions, right? That's the thing that tends to drive them. Then yes, we're kind of stuck with motivation anyway. Yvonne wants the URL for the nail, and I think I could find that. I think I can find that video in just a second. How would they be transferred to the surgery service? So sometimes the interactions we have with patients are really brief, right? And I think that even if they're really brief, they can still be meaningful. Like you could still attend to engagement. You can still, like I find, when I'm in the ER, oftentimes that crisis, I find something to reflect, even if it's only a few sentences in that setting, to evoke from somebody their ideas and values for changing. I just put the link into the video about the nail. Now, many surgery services, the most time they have with the patients when the patient's under anesthesia, there's not a lot of motivational interviewing if there's not a conversation. But I do think that you could, talking to patients takes time. So if you have a limited amount of time, you are pretty focused around like evocative statement, maybe ask for permission, give some information and advice, evoke readiness, ask a key question. Like that may be all the time you have, but it's still going to be motivational interviewing informed, even if it's brief. And yeah, Anya, assuming no change in like the structure of our health system, using motivational interviewing on our colleagues is probably, and demonstrating its effectiveness. Let's see, group settings. How did those that not get on board with them, I'd be transferred to being orthopedic surgeons. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Although orthopedic surgery is not a universally acceptable landing point. Okay. Where to learn more? There's a website called motivationalinterviewing.org that has a lot of videos and resources and training opportunities that I encourage you to check out. There's Motivational Interviewing, the textbook by Melon Rolnick is in its 3rd edition, so that's you can purchase that. There's a whole number of videos. I mean, we could have spent all day doing videos.
Thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us to share.
It's good to see everybody.
Great job, Brian. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, Bruce said, what would I do about the next steps with a woman with a nail on her head? So just real quick, I'd say, yeah, that sounds really hard. And she would say, you know, oh, thank you. And then like we kiss and she like hits her head, and I would not react in a frustrated way. I would say, yeah, that does sound really hard. What do you think? And I would spend time evoking her ideas about what she's ready for. And then so when I heard ideas that were in the positive direction of change, I would selectively reflect them. So Bruce, I don't know if that helps. That's what I do. All right. Thank you, everyone.